2, 1. Hi everyone, Andy Nichol and David Nicholas here from Abstract. We're here to finish off the Chartered Banker Lockdown Learning Series webinar that we ran last week. Unfortunately, technology didn't allow us to finish the Realisation and Self-Determination. So we're going to finish that off for you today and just remind you of where you'd been before. Unfortunately, the BrightTalk website crashed completely. And so I apologise if you had to stay on for any length of time. Believe me, you weren't as long as we were trying to correct what was happening. So we didn't know that we'd crashed, and we didn't know who was still on. So anyway, let me take you back. If you remember to the start of the session that David was taking you through, and the realisation. And we came to the conclusion that realisation was a series of events, not that one eureka moment. And then we looked at the whole nature versus nurture debate, and the majority of you were leaning towards that nurture side of things. But either side, whichever side you're on, it's all about choice. And we looked at the case study between the two brothers, the two twins, that made conscious and unconscious choices, and we saw how their lives turned out as a result. And then just before technology failed, you did a purpose questionnaire, and we were able to see that, again, the majority of you were either good to strong purpose. So I'm now going to get David to share the slide deck again and just take you through the final part of it, which is the self-determination, and to finish things off for the last 20 minutes, and then I'll come back on to just finishing things off with a couple of questions to round off the whole session, and then we'll close it off there. So I'll pass over to David.
Thank you, Andy, and hi everybody. I'm going to take you back just one slide and remind you where we were, because I think we were at a point in the presentation. So Carl Jung spoke about our being 0 to 7 are our formative years. These set our values, and this almost makes us the person for the rest of our lives. And from there, we then go and look at our learning years. And so 7 to 21. What's interesting here is that we actually try and look for references and experiences during those years that relate back to everything that we felt and learned and experienced in our early years. So, you know, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, it's coming your way depending on your early experiences. But here's the big one. This is what Carl Jung talks about as our survival years. This is aged between 22, 35. It can be any age, if I'm honest. For some people, they never actually leave their survival years. And this is where you get a job, you perhaps get a house, or you rent, or you get a car, you take on debt, you get a family, you have new relationships, etc., etc. And people look back after their survival years and say, where on earth did that go? Because we're almost in transit, and our conscious and unconscious choice is largely unconscious at this point. We're just getting through it. And then he talks about 36 to 50 being our development years. This is where we get our second wind. This is where we become our brilliant selves, and we may have extracurricular qualifications at this point. We may actually put our qualifications to great use. This is where our career really takes off and our confidence grows exponentially. And then we have our 51 to 65 comfortable years. And don't worry about the numbers on here. It's different for everybody. And these are our comfortable years where we pretty much know who we are. We've become the person we've become. And we are pretty much, you know, not for changing at this point. And we should be enjoying our life. And then we've got our retirement years, of course, and there's nothing wrong with enjoying them as well. But if you remember, I said that Carl Jung talks about the missing gaps from our survival years yearn to be fulfilled within our development years. So he coined the phrase, and I'm going to share this with you now, but he coined the phrase as this is what he termed a midlife crisis. Now, I know you're all probably thinking, what on earth has this got to do with me? But the fact is, I think midlife crisis gets a bit of a bad press because it's really, really helpful if we understand what our missing gaps are in our survival years. and whether or not, you know, we've got enough qualification, whether we're progressing enough, whether we're being more, you know, autonomous enough, whether we're having enough responsibility in our careers and lives. So it's really, really important that we understand what those missing gaps are. So this is where we dropped out, and I asked you all to assess what your gaps were or might be from your survival years, because some of you may not be there yet, and some of you may be right on in the survival years, moving into your development years, and some may be already ahead of that. So rather than give you time and sit in silence, I would ask you to press pause at this point and work out what you think your gaps were from your survival years. Okay, so let's move on to self-determination. And this is equally as important as the realizations, because realization is one thing, but without the self-determination, it doesn't mean anything. Self-determination is the process by which a person controls their own life. You can't control everything, but the more you're aware, the more you can control. So here's a model. It says, desired outcomes form intent. So first of all, you need to know what you want. And if you know what you want, your intent then drives you towards that. But this piece is really, really important that we found, is that character influences reasoning. So even if you know what you want and you move towards it, depending on your character, you might be reward seeking, you might be threat avoidance, you might be independent or a collaborator, you might be a fire starter or a finisher completer. Just examples, you may be a myriad of things over and above and it all in between. So depending on what your character is will depend on how you reason from your desired outcome and your intent, because reasoning will influence your choice, and how you reason may prevent you making that choice. And let me just remind you, even the decision not to make a decision is a decision, but your character will be influencing through reasoning your choice. And then of course, whatever you choose, whether it be conscious or unconscious, this forms your actions and your outcomes. So I'm going to take you through 8 steps to goal setting, and I want you to come with me on this. And again, I'm not going to hang around, so press the pause button, write your answer down, start me again, press the pause button, and we'll take you to question 8. What I'm going to promise you is that by the time we get to question 8, I will be able to give you the answers to what you do next. To every one of you, and every one of you will be different because you'll all write down a different goal. But I'm going to promise you that I will give you the answers to what happens next. It's like magic. Okay, so let's go. Get a pen and paper. 8 steps to high-level goal setting. The first thing you need to think about is, what is it you want? So is that, you know, a career promotion? Is that better qualifications? Is that moving across the business to another part of the business, etc., etc. It could be business, or it could be you could do it with something personal. But let's try and keep it business if you can. Okay, so pause button there and restart me in a moment. Okay, welcome back. So where, when, and with whom is the next question. So be very specific about this. Where is this happening? Exactly when, and put a date down. Okay, put an absolute date down for when this is happening, and with whom. Who's involved? What is the, what's the department, the area, the company, etc., etc. Where, when, and with whom. Okay, press the pause button, crack on, and I'll see you in a minute. Okay, welcome back. Imagine you've already got it. So I'm going to take you into the future, and you're there. Go to that date in time. Imagine you've already got it. What are you seeing? What are you hearing? How does it feel? Write that down. What are people saying to you? How do you look? How do you feel right now? Okay, pause button. Welcome back. So, looking back the way, Question 4 is, what might have got in the way? So you've achieved it and you've sat with a glass of wine saying, that was great, we got there. But looking back, what are those things that might have tripped you up? What may you not have done? So what might have got in the way? Okay, press your pause button. Welcome back. Question 5, what did you have to give up as a result of achieving your goal? So what did you sacrifice? What was missing from your life for that period or a short period whilst you achieved that goal? Write that one down and press your pause button. Welcome back. This is a really quick one in a way. You need to answer this honestly and say, is your goal worth 100% of everything it will take? And if not, what is that? So is that 99%? Is it 80%? Is it 50% only? So write a number down. If it's 100%, great. If it's anything less than 100%, write down what would make it 100. Okay, press pause. Okay, welcome back. So think about what effect will your goal have on the bigger global picture. So has your company share price gone through the roof as a result of your goal? Have you put an end to world poverty? Is global warming no longer a big issue? Etc., etc. So take a moment to think about what's the bigger impact. And it might not be that big. It might just be slightly bigger. You know, how does this impact on your family, on your children, their education, on your happiness, etc., etc. Okay, pause. Okay, so welcome back for the final one. So question 8 says, so what actions will you immediately take? And I know the answer to that for every one of you. And I'm going to tell you now. I want you to look back at what you wrote down for questions 4 and 5. And whatever you wrote down for questions 4 and 5, that's your next actions. That's what you need to do next. If you tackle 4 and 5, providing your goal was worth 100%, you cannot fail. But you can fail to tackle 4 and 5. And if your goal wasn't worth 100%, maybe it's the wrong goal. Or try and think about making it 100%. That might be part of your next steps as well. So I hope that's been enlightening, and I hope that helps you, because you can do this time and time again. You don't just do this once in your lifetime. You do it time and time again to get to where you want to be. This is conscious choice at its best. So why won't we do this? Because of our fear zone and the yearning to stay in our comfort zone. So if we think about COVID-19, I've just stopped for a moment to make sure I've got a good internet connection. So if we think about COVID-19, and Abstract in their comfort zone was a face-to-face classroom learning development provider. We were in our comfort zone. We knew we had to go to virtual or digital. We've been fighting it for a while. None of us were real experts in that area. And COVID-19 comes along, and suddenly we're all pushed out of our comfort zone. The fear zone is our business may become inconsequential. And suddenly we're pushed into the fear zone to be able to deliver this online and find other ways to deliver virtual or digital learning. Up to that point, we were lacking confidence, we were finding excuses, and we were being affected by our own and other people's opinions. So we had no choice. We were thrown into the fear zone. We got into the learning zone, and we started dealing with those challenges and problems. And just a few days and weeks later, we'd acquired new skills. This now, after 3 months, 4 months even, has now extended our comfort zone. We're quite comfortable doing this. And we're looking to grow now even more and set new goals and conquer new objectives with new digital learning and finding bigger purpose of changing people's lives and how we do that and living dreams. But you can't do this without intense focus and conscious choice. So what you focus on is what you get, and that's really up to you. So I'm going to leave you before we go to the Q&A with this quote, because this is all about choice. If not you, who? And if not now, then when? You can choose. You have the power. So in summary, you have the power to choose. You have the power of choice. We can align our natural core capabilities to what we do. We can set our goals. We can nurture our development. And we regularly review our journey, and we recalibrate our destination time after time. And the consequence of the three, or the incidence of the three frogs on the right, is that here's a question for you. There are three frogs sat on a log. One decides to jump off. How many left? And the answer is 3. And it's 3 because one of them only decided to jump off. They didn't do anything about it. So taking action is absolutely critical. It's not what you do listening to this webinar, it's what you do after it. So Andy, back to you.
Thanks, David. And so as David comes off sharing the slide deck, it's all about choice. You've now got choices to make. You know, hopefully that the 8 steps to high-level goal setting was very helpful for you. Personally, I found it very helpful over the years. As David said, you can keep going back to revisiting it because your goals change as circumstances change. And especially when we've come into COVID now, undoubtedly our goals have changed because the environment has changed in a huge way. And so we did have a few questions. We were going to do 20 minutes or maybe 15 minutes of Q&A, but we've got a couple of questions that we'll just share with you as we do the second part of our webinar. So the first question was pandemic. How is the pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic, having a positive or a negative impact on our conscious choice? David, how would you look at that?
Yeah, that's a brilliant question, actually. I think it's having a positive impact on our conscious choice because we said earlier, the more you are aware, the more you can control. And I think we're so much more aware now of where we are, how we're working, what our options are, managing the children, the animals, the workload, everything. We're much more aware, making conscious choices about our timings of things as well, our time management, how we're going to do things, when we're going to do them. So I would say it's very, very positive. It's created a much bigger spatial awareness for us.
I agree with that, but I think what lockdown has done is limited the number of choices we've got because we're not able to do a lot of what we would ordinarily do or we would choose to do prior to going into lockdown. So our choices have changed, but the positive or negative element I think is very true, and it is having that positive impact is what we should be aiming for. And then the second question, which is kind of linked to it. So one person asked, how can I engage to make better choices in this environment, in lockdown? So how can they engage, David? What would be your advice to that person?
Yeah, that's a more difficult question because you have the power to engage. You have the power to choose. I think the medium to engage has changed. Your power has stayed the same. But the medium and the circumstances will allow you to probably, as you just said in your last statement, it will allow you less opportunity to engage. So I would say choose your references wisely and know when to engage and through what medium. And, you know, it may be that you have to engineer opportunities to make conscious choices and to engage other people with them choices.
And very much so. And I think the positive conscious choice that some of the delegates could do is to do that professional development through Chartered Banker, which is what this webinar is really a part of the lockdown learning series. And so there's lots of choices out there. Just go out there and make the good ones, make positive ones, and make ones that are going to impact on your life and your career. So thank you for joining the webinar. Sorry it's taken 2 parts to actually complete it. It's all a pleasure working with Chartered Banker and be part of this lockdown learning series. And so good luck, go away and use it as much as you can. On behalf of David and myself and everyone at Abstract, thank you for joining and stay safe and we'll see you soon. Thank you.